The most disturbing movie accidents psychology iceberg. Accidents happen, but some movie accidents go far beyond bruises and broken bones. These are the ones that leave lasting trauma, not just for the involved, but for the people watching too. This is a psychological iceberg of the most disturbing movie accidents ever caught on camera. The deeper we go, the more the line between performance and real pain starts to vanish. And what we're left with are not just accidents, but emotional wreckage. Level 1. Bruises and brush-ins. At the surface, things look normal. These accidents didn't end in death, but they shook actors, broke trust, and exposed how quickly safety can fall apart when the cameras are rolling. The Avengers, 2012. Jeremy Fitzgerald was performing a false stunt as Hawkeye's double, a simple 30-foot drop. But halfway down, something went wrong. He twisted midair and slammed his deck into a brick wall. Blood poured down his face. His scalp was torn. The worst part? Just inches away from where he hit was a sharp metal rain gutter that could have killed him. Instead of shutting down production, Marvel handed him a bandage and kept filming. This taps into the trauma of being disposable, the fear that your pain doesn't matter if the show must go on. It's the emotional numbness that sets in when people around you pretend everything is fine. Adults watching this might not remember the blood as much as the quiet message underneath. Your suffering is just part of the job. Sometimes, the most terrifying thing on a film set isn't an explosion. It's the decision to keep rolling after something goes horribly wrong. That's exactly what happened behind the scenes of The Avengers. But not all dangers are loud. Some hidden in the space between a director's request and an actor's trust. Just ask Brendan Fraser, who found out what a little tighter really meant. The Mummy, 1999. During a hanging scene, Brendan Fraser was told to sell it more. So he did, until the rope tightened too much. For 10 terrifying seconds, he lost oxygen. Then everything went black. He woke up with gravel in his teeth and his elbow in his ear. Hanging triggers deep-rooted survival fear, especially when it's not just pretend. For Fraser, the boundary between acting and death blurred.
Like this with the rope, and you only got so far to go.
Yeah.
And Steven ran over and he said, "Hey, it doesn't really look like you're, choking. Can you sell it?" And I'm like, "All right, fine."
For viewers, it's the anxiety of trusting others and having that trust nearly kill you. And then there's the kind of danger that hides behind laughter, when the stunts look like a joke, until it leaves real damage behind. That's what happened to Ryan Dunn in Jackass number 2, and the pain didn't stop when the cameras did. Jackass number 2, 2006. Ryan Dunn and Bam Margera were dragged by a running horse as part of a rope stunt. It seemed funny at first, until Ryan hit the ground hard. He walked away, but the hit caused a blood clot that almost killed him weeks later. He fell into a depression and disappeared from his friend group for years. This is emotional whiplash. The fear of laughing one second and facing death the next.
Dunn landed really wrong and messed his shoulder up and wound up getting a blood clot.
It's really scary. It was scary to all of us because, we don't think about that stuff. And then, blood clot is really dangerous because if a chunk of that went into his heart or into his brain, he would die.
It shows how trauma can sneak up on you long after the camera stops, and how pain lives quiet in the mind and body. It's a kind of horror that isn't dramatic. It's slow, lonely, and real. These moments were scary, but they felt like accidents. What comes next in level 2 will start to feel like something else entirely. The mistakes grow bigger, the costs become permanent, and the fear becomes harder to ignore. Level 2. Broken bones, broken trust. This is where optimism breaks. The accidents don't just hurt. They shatter bodies and expose the fragile illusion of control. Deadpool 2, 2018. Joy S.J. Harris was the first black female professional motorcycle racer in the United States. When she got her first job as a movie stuntwoman, it should have been a dream come true. She was hired to ride a motorcycle at low speed, doubling for the character Domino. But the set wasn't safe. She didn't have the right helmet. There were no barriers to protect her. The motorcycle jumped a curb and crashed through a glass window. Joy was killed instantly. This is the fear of being set up to fail. She did everything right and still died. For adults watching, this taps into a deep kind of moral confusion. The idea that you can follow the rules, trust the system, and still be the one who pays the price. It's not just the crush that hurts. It's knowing no one stopped it from happening. But if Deadpool 2 was a tragedy built on trust, this next accident was built on panic. When a scene goes wrong, people scramble to fix it. And in the next movie, that scramble will turn steel into explosion and a set into a war zone. The Tournament, 2009. The movie had a big chase scene that was supposed to end with a truck flipping from an explosion, but the special effect failed. So the crew tried something else. They put in a steel pump as a backup. When it exploded, pieces of metal flew everywhere. Only one crew member, Shiro Roth, was hit in both legs. The bones shattered. This is the fear of working inside a system that moves too fast. When something breaks, people rush to fix it. Corners get cut. Safety is skipped. You're told to stand back, but no one really knows what will happen. It's not monsters or villains that cause pain. It's pressure, mistakes, and speed. And if pain can hit the body like a weapon, what happens when it hits the brain? In The Hangover 2 Part 2, a stuntman woke up to a reality he didn't recognize, and a life erased by one moment of miscalculation. The Hangover Part 2, 2011. Scott McClane was doing a high-speed car chase for this comedy sequel, but something went wrong. The car hit a truck, harder than planned. Scott hit his head and fell into a coma. When he woke up, he couldn't walk or talk. He had to learn everything again. This is a deep kind of helplessness, the fear of going to work one morning and waking up as a different person. Your body might survive, but your memories, your voice, your identity, they might not come with you. At this point, the accidents weren't just painful, they were life-altering. The mind, the body, the soul, all changed forever. But what happens when even that is the best-case scenario? Let's move to level 3, where survival isn't promised, and safety is just an illusion. Level 3, close calls with death. Now we enter a colder place, where death comes close enough to leave fingerprints. These accidents didn't kill, but they almost did, and they left a psychological scar that never truly heals. The Abyss, 1989. Ed Harris was filming a scene deep underwater. Everything was going fine, until he ran out of oxygen. His safety diver tried to reach him but got stuck in some cables. By the time help arrived, the oxygen regulator was upside down. Harris started to drown. He survived, but later while driving home, he had to pull over and cry on the side of the road.
But I remember driving home that night, and I just broke down, man. I was just weeping because I was in the middle of something and I really thought I was gonna die for a second, and that I was afraid of that I got scared of that for a second. It was a all total mixture of so many things, you know.
This is one of the oldest fears we have, drowning. It's not just pain, it's panic from inside the body. Your brain starts screaming while your lungs shut down. This kind of terror doesn't go away when the camera cuts. It sits in your nervous system for life. Even if you survive, your mind keeps replaying the feeling, the helpless fight for breath, the moment you thought it was over. But not every accident happens in front of a camera. Some tragedies unfold far from the spotlight. Quiet, brutal, and invisible to the final cut. The next story isn't about a stuntman. It's about a worker who followed the rules and still died anyway. Con Air, 1997. Philip Schwartz was a welder, helping prepare a huge set piece, a cargo plane. Something went wrong. The structure collapsed and crushed him to death. He wasn't a stuntman. He wasn't near an explosion. He followed every rule, and he died anyway. This strikes at the fear of random death. The idea that no matter how careful you are, you can still be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It also taps into something darker, the lie of safety. We tell ourselves that rules protect us, that danger has a warning sign. But Philip's story says otherwise. For many adults, this kind of death is the most haunting, because it means anyone could be next. And if a man can die while building a movie about criminals in chains, what does it mean when someone dies working on a kid's film? One about dinosaurs and nature. The next story is even harder to process, because the horror hides behind something innocent. Dinosaur, 2000. While filming background scenes for this Disney movie, the crew used a steel camera boom. It hit live power lines. Matthew Gordy was electrocuted and died. Another worker nearby was badly burned. Disney was fined just $5,000. This story is hard to make sense of. It's a man dying while trying to film peaceful skies and animal herds, scenes meant to calm children. Psychologically, this creates a deep kind of emotional confusion. We want stories for kids to be safe, pure, gentle. But here, something deadly happened behind the calm surface. It also stirs anger, because it feels like the studio didn't care. A man died, and the price was small. That kind of cold response shakes your trust in how much your life is really worth to the people in charge. In the earlier levels, people were bruised, scarred, and changed. Here, they're gone. Because once you reach this point, luck is no longer enough. Now we move into level 4, where the mind begins to fracture, where guilt and silence replace logic, and where no one's coming to help. Level 4, death behind the camera. These deaths didn't make it into the movie, but they were real, and they changed everything, or nothing at all. Hell's Angels, 1930. Director Howard Hughes wanted the film to look perfect. So instead of listening to expert pilots, he insisted on flying one of the stunt planes himself. He crashed, but he survived. Others weren't so lucky. 4 people died during filming. One pilot hit live power lines and burned to death. This isn't just a story about danger. It's a story about pride. The kind of pride that makes someone ignore warnings and gamble with lives. Psychologically, this is ego horror, when someone's dreams become more important than your life. For the people working under Hughes, the fear wasn't just flying the planes. It was knowing their safety didn't matter. It's the deep adult dread of being used, of realizing your life means nothing next to someone's vision. And while this death made headlines, not every tragedy does. Some don't happen in the sky or in front of a camera. The next accident isn't loud. They happen in the shadows, quiet, unnoticed, and almost erased. Silence, 2016. 3 workers were hired to fix an old building before filming. The structure wasn't safe. The roof collapsed. 1 man died. 2 others were badly hurt. Just 2 days later, production started again. This story stirs a different kind of fear, emotional abandonment, the horror that your death won't stop anything. The people will just keep going, as if you were never there. Adults watching might not feel scared at first, but they feel hollow, forgotten. It's the fear that your life is too small to matter, even when it ends on the job. That kind of emptiness lingers, especially when no one slows down to grieve. And sometimes, the scariest thing isn't being forgotten. It's being careful, being good, and still dying anyway. What happens when doing everything right still leads to the worst outcome? Love You Ranchu, 2021. A stunt was being filmed using a metal harness. No one knew it was too close to live power lines. Vivek, a crew member standing on the ground, became the connection. Electricity surged through him. He died instantly. The others lived. This story taps into a deep emotional crack, the fear of fairness breaking down. Vivek wasn't reckless. He didn't make a mistake. He followed the rules and still died. That kind of horror stays with you. The idea that caution doesn't protect you, and that fate doesn't care how good you are. For survivors, guilt takes root. For the rest of us, it's a question that shakes our sense of control. If he did everything right, what chance do we have? At this level, safety becomes a story people tell to feel better. We've done this before. It's all under control. But when those promises crash into real danger, into steel, ice, and machines, they fall apart. And what's left is level 5, where trauma becomes permanent and the body stops being the limit. Level 5, mass casualty and systemic neglect. This is the breaking point, where accidents turn into disasters and films start to resemble war zones. The Charge of the Light Brigade, 1936. A stuntman fell during a scene and landed on a hidden sword. He died, but he wasn't the only one. During filming, more than 25 horses were killed. They were forced into dangerous stunts, tripped, thrown, and broken for the camera. The public was so outraged, new animal safety laws had to be created. This level isn't just about fear, it's about shame. The deep, uncomfortable feeling that this wasn't a mistake. These deaths were expected, and no one stopped it. It reveals something dark in us, the part that lets cruelty happen as long as it makes the shot look good. For many, it's the horror of realizing the pain was part of the plan. But not all pain is carefully designed. Sometimes the terror comes from pretending we're in control, when we're really not. In the next story, the set trusted nature, and nature bit back. King of the Jungle, 1927. Actor Gord Standing was filming a scene with a real lion. No cage, no barrier. The lion attacked him. Gordon lived through the attack but died the next day from his injuries. His co-star was so traumatized, he left the movie business forever. There's a primal fear in this, the fear of being hunted. It speaks to the oldest part of our brain, the part that remembers predators. But this story also cuts deeper. Gordon trusted the filmmakers. He trusted the people around him. He may have even trusted the animal. That trust was torn apart in seconds. This is betrayal trauma. When the people or system meant to protect you let you die. And if trust can be destroyed by an animal, it can also be erased by a person, quietly, without warning. The next death didn't come from nature, it came from a decision. A man's choice to put a bullet in the gun. The Captive, 1915. Director D.B. Griffith wanted his war scene to feel real. So instead of using fake bullets, he ordered the crew to use real ones. Someone forgot to remove a live round. An extra was shot and killed during the scene. This is obedience horror. The fear of doing what you're told and still dying. The actor wasn't being reckless. He wasn't improvising. He followed orders. He trusted the process. That trust cost him his life. This taps into something terrifying for adults. The idea that someone with power over you, a director, a boss, a leader, might treat your life like it's replaceable. By this level, you don't just feel scared, you start to feel sick. And in the next layer, that sickness spreads, not just to people, but to systems, companies, and entire industries. Because level 6 isn't just about injury, it's about collapse. When everything you believe in falls apart, and nothing can stop what's coming. Level 6, spirit level horror. These aren't just deaths, they're emotional ruptures. Events so disturbing, they feel cursed. Belinsky Frontier, 2019. In a Russian war movie, a tank stunt was being filmed. The driver was supposed to hit the brake, but he hit the gas instead. Stuntman Oleg Shilkin was in front of the tank. It ran him over and crushed him. He died before he even reached the hospital. This is more than just a tragic mistake. It feels like a ritual sacrifice. A person dying to make a story about death look more real. We watch war movies and feel inspired by bravery, but behind the scenes, someone really bled for that moment. It makes you question why pain is treated like entertainment. Why do we celebrate movies that kill people in real life? But sometimes, the body doesn't even return. Sometimes, the scene doesn't stop, because the camera keeps rolling, even as someone disappears forever. Catch-22, 1970. John Jordan was a cameraman filming war scenes from the air. He had already lost one leg in the past. Still, they let him shoot without a safety harness. He fell 4,000 feet into the ocean. They never found his body. Filming continued. This isn't just about death. It's about the fear of vanishing, of being here 1 second and gone the next, with no goodbye. No funeral, no grave, just the sick feeling that the world kept moving like you were never here. It leaves a special kind of pain, not just for the people who knew him, but for anyone who's ever felt like they could disappear and no one would notice. And yet, even the sky can't swallow you the way the earth can. Because the next story isn't about falling. It's about being buried alive by something no one saw coming. The Messenger, 2002. A Russian film crew was shooting a scene in the mountains. Suddenly, a glacier broke apart. A wall of snow and ice crashing down at 150 miles per hour. It hit the crew and buried them. Only 13 bodies were ever found. This is nature as terror. No villain, no explosion, just the cold, unstoppable force of the earth. It reminds us that cameras and scripts don't matter when the world decides to move. It's the fear of being small, smaller than a mountain, smaller than time. No one planned this, no one could stop it, and for many, no one will ever know they were there. This isn't about pain you can see, it's about pain that leaves no trace. The kind that makes you wonder if anyone will remember you at all. But if silence is scary, what comes next is worse. Level 7 isn't about fear of dying. It's about knowing you're dying and watching the camera roll away anyway. Level 7. No one comes back from this. This is where the silence gets heavy. Where the accidents don't just injure, they leave a hole in the world. Welcome to the bottom. There's no safety net here, only real blood, real loss, and the kind of trauma that doesn't fade. It follows you. Twilight Zone, the movie, 1983. It was supposed to be a dramatic rescue scene. Actor Vic Morrow carries 2 Vietnamese children through a river as helicopters fly above, simulating a wartime memory. But something went wrong. The explosion was too strong. The helicopter lost control. The 2 children were crushed to death. It happened on camera. The footage still exists. The children weren't even legally allowed to be on set at night, but they were there anyway, paid under the table. Psychologically, it triggers betrayal trauma. The horror that those in charge, the people who are supposed to protect you, will choose to shoot over your life. It forces us to ask, if a child's life isn't enough to stop filming, what is? And if that was horror hidden behind war effects, what happens when the danger is real, sharp-toothed, and purring on set? Not a monster in costume, but a lion that doesn't care where the script ends. Roar, 1981. This wasn't a horror movie, but it became one. Roar was made by real-life couple Tippi Hedren and Noel Marshall. They wanted to show how humans and wild animals could live together peacefully. So they filled their set with over 100 untrained lions, tigers, and leopards, and let them roam freely. No cages, no safety. During filming, dozens of crew members were injured. One lion bit off a crew member's scalp. A cinematographer was almost killed. There were 70 confirmed attacks, but they kept filming, kept smiling, kept pretending it was safe. This taps into predator trauma, a deep, ancient fear of being hunted. But more than that, it reveals delusional optimism when people convince themselves they're in control as the blood starts to spill. It's a kind of psychological madness, believing that nature will follow your script while it tears your body apart. But even wild animals have reasons for violence. What's worse is when death comes from silence, from bad choices, from someone saying, "We'll be quick." That's when filming becomes a funeral, and the track is already laid. Midnight Rider, 2014. This was a biopic about musician Greg Allman. One scene was being filmed on a live railroad track in Georgia. Without a proper permit, the crew set up a hospital bed on the tracks, and the train came. Camera assistant Sarah Jones was struck and killed instantly. Others were injured. No warning, no time. And Sarah was 27 at that time. The director served jail time, but the film was never finished. This is industrial horror, not nature, not chance, but system failure. The fear here is helplessness. Knowing you're on the wrong track, screaming to stop, and no one listens. For many in the film world, Sarah's death broke something. It became a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of how easily art turns into sacrifice. These final stories leave behind more than blood. They leave a silence, the kind that follows real horror. Not monsters, not ghosts, but choices made by humans, watched by cameras, buried in paperwork. This is where the iceberg ends. Not with screams, but with questions. What is the price of pretending it's all just a movie? And for those who paid for it, there is no coming back.